Hello, George. It's great to meet you. My name is Maciek Szczesniak, as most of my followers know and my listeners know. But this time, I have a pleasure to have a conversation with someone who really understands well the whole MSP or managed service provider community and the world. George, can you introduce yourself to the community that I typically cater to?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Magic, thank you for inviting me in the first place. I started Portland in 1998, as a value-add distributor in the IT reseller space. The acronym MSP did not exist yet. So it was all about IT resellers and system houses and VARs. And then I met, this person, Gerald Blackie, one of the founders of Kaseya, and he asked me to sell his product into the Benelux market to IT service providers. It was called the IT service providers organization software company. Eventually, long story short, I told him that what he had building back in the days in 2005 was going to create a revolution in the IT services space. And then not much later, he sent me an email. Okay, George, let's do this together. Let's bring managed services to continental Europe. So that's my background. So for 25 years, an entrepreneur in the IT space, started selling all kinds of value-add products to the standard, the value-add resellers and resellers, and morphed into a MSP-only, MSP-focused value-add distributor serving today more than 700, 800 MSPs in the Benelux region. So that is in a very short, frame where I come from, what it is, what we do, and to emphasize on why we are so good at selling products to MSPs in the local region is that we have literally brought Kaseya, Autotask, ConnectWise, all the brands that you know today that have an MSP-centric focus to the Benelux market.
I am not sure if most of the resellers understand extremely well who Kaseya, ConnectWise, or Autodesk are.
Yeah, so if you look at let's go a little bit higher level. So if you look at the global MSP market, you see a market with close to 330,000 companies worldwide. Of course, with the concentration in North America, United Kingdom, Scandinavia, Australia, New Zealand, and the Benelux. Very comparable markets, with all the Southern European and other regions in the world following up quite quickly. From those 330,000 companies out there, and not everybody is a pure play MSP. And a pure play MSP means a company that makes more than 50% of their revenues, their annual revenues, from services. So that means that they have a services menu card, and that's what they do. They sell monthly recurring services to their customers. And if you zoom into the Benelux, you see that we have like a 3,500 MSPs in total. And then if you zoom into the technology stack, today, after 20 years of an industry that did not exist 20 years ago, today that market is about $600 billion big, globally, with two main market leaders being Kaseya and ConnectWise, holding about 55% of the total market in their hands. And what they do, where they're very strong at, begins with PSA software, which means professional services automation software, and of course RMM, which stands for remote management and monitoring software, to start with, which is basically the basic fundament of your organization. So to be able to run a smooth operation from a question from a customer based on an SLA down to sending an invoice to that same customer per month, with summed up all the services that they have acquired, which have been delivered. And those two companies, ConnectWise and Kaseya, they are more than 20 years old. I think that ConnectWise started in the 80s as an MSP themselves, or an IT service provider, and later on morphed into a company that they sold 4 years ago for 1.5 billion to a big VC in America called Thoma Bravo. Kaseya had a similar route. They grew from nothing to, I think it's worth now a couple billion, under the umbrella of Insight, and that's the other large venture capitalist with an investment portfolio of 90 billion, also predominantly in the MSP-centric software space. And then you've got a third one, to make it really high level, Thoma Bravo. I mentioned they are owning the ConnectWise stack. Insight owns the Kaseya stack with all the underlying acquisitions they've done. they've done over the past 10 years. And you got a company called Vista that is also very active in this particular space. Yeah, you can say that they hold the majority of the products in their portfolio.
If I understand correctly, from the VAR perspective, from the value-added reseller, both Kaseya and ConnectWise deliver a crucial piece of software that enables the MSPs to manage the contracts and deliver the contracts to the customers. They don't sell directly to the customers. They're not visible to the end users at all. Okay.
Correct.
They just enable an interaction with an end user by the delivery of the software that manages the contract and manages the delivery of the contract, as I previously said.
Yeah.
It's not a competition. Is it a competition to the distributors?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I don't think there's such a thing anymore as a linear sales model per se, where you have a vendor, a distributor, reseller, and an end user, which we have been used to since whatever this IT industry was born. I see the IT industry more as like a celestial view, with the North Star being Microsoft, and around it you got all those different products that is needed to be able to deliver a smooth or good working, cyber safe workspace. But if you look at the exact differences, the way I look at it, what a VAR does and what an MSP does, then a VAR primarily focusing on selling hardware, software, and projects, consultancy maybe, transactional, and MSPs are way more into the revenue models, like we have an SLA, we have a services menu card, and we will charge you per workstation per month for all the services that is needed to bring you the safe, smooth running hybrid IT infrastructure. Yeah.
But when I'm coming from the VAR space. My background is a reseller motion, and a lot of resellers would tell you that they sell services as well. So there's not what is the difference? What is the main difference between the MSP and the reseller that is also selling a lot of services to the customers?
Yeah, maybe, because my belief of the VAR world, since I've been working with MSPs for so long, and I've worked for a large VAR back in the days, it was way more transactional. It was like you need a bunch of printers and hardware and servers, etc. And with an MSP, it's more like, we can be your platform. We can sell you that as a service. We can sell you everything as a service on a monthly recurring base. So that's the biggest difference that I see. It's all based on monthly subscription fees. And I think that because of the transactional relationship VARs have with their customers or with their clients, whereas the MSP thrive for the longer term relationships, like multi-year contractual relationships, so to say. That might be maybe the biggest difference, in terms of the implementations that VARs do from time to time, project-wise, is something that I don't see MSPs doing a lot. If they sell you infrastructure, they will use infrastructure as a service, to charge you on a monthly basis. But of course, at the end, it's all about selling infrastructure, hybrid infrastructure these days, with the right monitoring and security and help desk support and cloud services. So the two worlds should morph, more into one big services world, if you ask me. The reason why that is not happening might be because of the DNA of a VAR, which might be completely different than the DNA of a born in the cloud MSP or a telco company, which traditionally are also two worlds that are quite separated. But telco is moving into for 10 years now, moving into the IP domain. And today, every MSP is selling telco, VoIP services and fixed mobile services. And that's so I see the VAR, also because of the pressure in the market, moving into that monthly subscription-based model. Maybe they have to.
Why would they have to?
Well, there are a couple of really big changes right now in the market. If you look at it from a triangle perspective, you got the big LARs, SoftwareOne, Insight, Bechtle, all those known names. Very good at selling software and selling hardware and basically selling you from a laptop bag to very complicated infrastructure projects. Today, they are entering into more of a troubled year because of Microsoft changing their complete enterprise agreement model to that CSP model, which means that it will get less margin, sometimes a cut of 75%. So that LAR business will change on the top of the food chain. They also have to start thinking about how can I make money on a monthly recurring basis to at least be able to co-op with the competition of the VARs. And then you enter the VAR world, you see a lot of traditional hardware sales companies, if it's Nutanix or Hewlett-Packard or even Citrix is still out there. Sometimes I'm shocked about the old-fashioned industry Mologs that are still being used and still being sold, but predominantly, most often in a bit higher segment of the triangle. So then you enter the MSP space, which could best be explained as to start with the platform MSPs. Those are the private equity-driven, M&A hungry companies that start putting all those extra MSPs to their nice pearl necklace, up to a point where they buy between 15 and 35 of them, becoming a real danger to the VAR, because then you become 100 million, 150 million annual recurring revenue monster that could easily eat away those customers from those VARs and LARs by offering them month-to-month subscriptions that might be economically, from a whatever perspective that they're working on, to own their own hardware, to do it on a subscription base. And then you see those platform MSPs down market. You see definitely a market where those big platform MSPs that are now troubling the world of the VARs, the smaller MSPs are now eating away the business from those platform MSPs, because they're now moving up market. So this whole ecosystem is reinventing itself constantly, which I think is fascinating to see, where the VARs and the LARs are most troubled. I think the MSPs are, literally going up the market in a way that has never been never seen before, which leaves a lot of food on the table, the crumbs, when a platform MSP, after they bought 35 of those companies, start moving up market. They leave, the SMB-like services on the table, because customers that are in the SMB space, they expect SMB kind services, which is not going to be possible when you're going to go up market. And then those smaller MSPs take on all those little crumbs. So that ecosystem is super interesting to see. And that's how I look at the market. And those VARs, they still do projects. I still see them doing it. But the biggest, I think, difference between a VAR and an MSP, traditional MSP, might be the type and size of customers that they're serving. So MSPs most often sell their services to those SMB customers that do not have the money or time to acquire or hire an IT services guy or an IT systems manager. So if you're like a 50-staff SMB company, and you have one guy who runs your IT, most often that is somebody who's also in finance, funny enough, you will never be able to, to have the right level of security, or the right level of GDPR compliancy, or the right level of AI implementation, etc. And one guy costs you 70,000, and that money can easily be spent per workstation per month for like 25 or 50 euros, together with an MSP that can basically cover all those topics that I just mentioned, which will never be able to be covered by one guy. If you look at VARs, they are most often, active in the mid-sized companies. Like in Holland, you got 350,000 SMB companies, 50,000 mid-sized, and 3,000 real large enterprises. You see those VARs being very active in the mid-sized organizations, and now being chased by the platform MSPs. They want to go at market as well, and the SMBs are just below that, and that will never change. But because of the M&A hunger, you see that going up market. Yeah, definitely.
We explained the difference between the MSP and the VAR. We explained companies like ConnectWise and Kaseya, what kind of a value they deliver to the MSP market and the MSP partners. ConnectWise will have their flagship event in London in a couple of weeks, called IT Nation Connect Europe. Why should value-added reseller go to an event like that? Is it something that would be beneficial for the VARs?
Oh, definitely. If you look at the MSP space now being old 2 decades, it's not something that is new, but it's got a name, it's got a new acronym. And we're very good in our IT industry to come up with new acronyms. But let's say that in that 600 billion industry, those two market leaders have been doing close to 50 acquisitions per company. If you look at the difference, if you have to choose as a VAR, if you really want to morph more into a managed services provider, then I would highly recommend you to take a look at one of those two products, or maybe other products that are coming up. But let's say that from my vendor agnostic, independent, way of looking at the market, you see that Kaseya have been buying, I thought it was 49 vendors, for documentation as a service, for endpoint detection, for whatever. So they've got this complete suite to cover basically every task, every daily IT task that you need to be able to manage your customers as if you're managing like one big network. If you look at ConnectWise, what they have done really smartly is that when they got acquired by Thoma Bravo, they immediately thought, we need to create a real platform for the MSPs out there. That means you can acquire 50 products, but then you still need to connect it with APIs, native APIs, could go as far as API or whatever. And we all know in this industry that is suboptimal. So they thought, let's buy or build, let's start buying, and then, put it all in one big, from the ground up, new platform called ASIO. And that platform has got one UI, one UX for all the daily IT tasks that you have to do as an MSP or a VAR, put into one system. So from whatever chaotic IT management to an unstoppable services machine with only one type of platform, which is totally unique in the market. I think that if this works as advertised, then they're at least a year and a half ahead of the competition. Not to say the least, of course, the fact that AI or generative AI took us by storm, that is also already being implemented in, by the way, both platforms. Not to say the least RPA, which I think would be beneficial for VARs when you start talking to larger organizations, so the whole robot process automation. And then you've got the hyper automation phase that we're entering into the market. Well, I know a lot of software companies, like ServiceNow is a company that's being used in that domain of the mid-sized organizations on a global scale that do fantastically good, great company. And I've heard rumors that they're going to, they are going down market as well, because everybody is, of course, getting interested in the managed services market, such a big number today. So having said that, if you are a VAR or an MSP and there are only a couple of players out there, then of course I think it's smart to just spend 2 or 3 days of your time to fly into London, book a ticket for $100, take a hotel, and listen into the two market leaders. You could go to Kaseya here in Amsterdam, or you can go to IT Nation in London. And for me personally, being the guy who founded Kaseya Europe back in 2007 and ran it as the executive VP for Europe, I know Kaseya. I knew Kaseya inside out. That's already 10 years ago. And based on that knowledge, I think that I know about all those events I've been to in the past 20 years, that IT Nation is definitely a place to go to suck up all the newest and greatest and latest stuff, just to give it a very practical swing. If you look at backup, today it was announced that NinjaOne, the third largest player, is interested in acquiring Dropsuite. If you look at Kaseya, what they have bought, they bought Datto. It's also a backup powerhouse. And not much later, ConnectWise announced that they bought Axient and SkyKick, without the fact, besides the fact that they're already having great relationships with Acronis and other backup products that are well known in our industry. And also VMware of other more well-known products out there. So suddenly the whole industry gets berserk on acquiring backup products. Backups, that's like the most ancient service that everybody should deliver from like a baseline, the 3-2-1 kind of service that you need to deliver. And suddenly this is super, super hot. Just to think about that for a second and go to those events and ask them why, then you start to think, with all the ransomware attacks and all the stuff that's going on out there, you need to have a great backup. Yeah, duh. Then you have to choose for the right organizations with the right technology. As simple as that. So don't expect all kinds of unique stuff. I would definitely just take a look at the different offerings from the market leaders out there and just compare them on who has got the right backup products. Then we take a quantum leap to security. Look at how many security products are out there. Just to name it by the name, there are 6,500 security products, in MSP-centric security products, in the market available today. Okay, good luck to you, Mr. VAR product owner or CTO. 6,500 to choose from. You have to see that. That's what I would recommend everybody as an older former engineer in a platform kind of habitat. Much easier than you don't have to, think about or break your head around or on integrations. And those platform players, if they play it well, then you can understand that if it's a platform play, then your managed detection and response is connected to your PSA, that it doesn't give you too many false positives when it finds something, etc., etc., etc. So the way I look at it, coming from a market which was already flooded with little tools and all little kinds of small point solutions, I would definitely, as a CTO or CEO, C-level, or just one level below, go to one of those IT nations, once a year, and then soak up the platform thinking to figure out, if it's useful to, if you morph into an MSP, which one you should choose. And on top of that, I always go to IT Nation in London, but also to IT Nation in Orlando. And the difference there is that not so much in terms of content or the people you can talk to, but the Americans have a bit different idea, if you talk to the people that attend IT Nation. But what is interesting to see is that a lot of people that have worked for large hardware companies that we all know, or worked in the VAR space, people that go to IT Nation in Orlando are like blown away about the fact that this is such a professional, large community with 7,000 MSPs, attending a show like that. That's insane. It's just insane to see 7,000 ugly people like me having dinner at the same time.
But let's nail it down for the IT Nation itself, okay? IT Nation in Europe itself. If I understand from your message is there are 2 or 3 companies out there that are delivering the kind of a platforms for the MSPs to manage. So it's good to know. And you mentioned the ASIO platform from ConnectWise, which is really, really, really innovative and interesting, and maybe a little bit ahead of its time. You mentioned, the latest solutions for the MSPs, which is the backup solutions. What is the latest in a backup solution, and what is the latest in the security, cybersecurity, which is another big topic in the MSP world. So you say, hey, there are platform news, there are product news, software stack news. If I'm a VAR, will I be able to understand all this? Is it something that is going to be how do I make sure that if I'm not part of this community, how do I make sure that that I understand all those offers, all those opportunities, that I don't go there and maybe kind of be a little bit overwhelmed by the way people talk or the offers that they make. As a VAR, I might not completely understand the MSP business model.
Yeah, but I think it's easier. It might be easier to understand if you just think about, okay, what is the best way moving forward the coming years for my customers? To pay a bill that is predictable per month, where I can just add services based on a very simple services menu. You should not, create too much of a complicated menu, so to say. So what is easier? Like a menu that you can just all you can eat, or just per project CapEx, OpEx discussion. So that is something that I can't answer. It's just literally everybody's got to think about it themselves. It's just your own decision. If you go in there, like completely, blanco, as so to say, like not expecting anything, and you start talking or you start listening into the keynote of the ConnectWise CEO or the product guys, then you still see a lot of product. Yeah, that's true. I mean, IT Nation London, it will have like a shitload of booths, with all kinds of solutions that might dazzle you, like that's true. And that is a problem. But I would look through it and think, okay, how can I create a profitable, secure environment for my own team to be able to, to deliver those IT tasks, those daily IT tasks, and enabling myself and my team to automate the hell out of it. And that is something that is an era that we're entering right now, is called hyper automation or robot process automation, whatever you want to call it, with all the help of AI tools that we can get. But this is like literally where we are today. So if you are not going to make that decision and you keep on doing what you're doing, expecting a different outcome, that is close to insanity, isn't it? So if you are not willing or able to morph your company into a more managed services oriented organization with predictable revenue, then eventually those platform MSPs from those PE companies are coming after you. They're coming after your business. They're going to come after your customers. And that's what I hear from people that own those companies. For the past couple of quarters, I've been doing a lot of interviews. So what they can expect, you move in, you go definitely to the keynote, you will get a good high-level understanding of where the MSP industry stands today. You take your time to go walk the different booths, all the different technologies. But the most important part is to make sure that you go to those product owners, all SVPs, that own the cybersecurity stack or the RPA stack or the automation stack or the backup and disaster recovery stack. And then I believe that if you just leave your phone off and leave your laptop at home, after 2 days, you have a good broad understanding of what a platform like ASIO can do for your organization. Eventually, if I look at the existing MSP space out there, they've got an average of 20 to 25 tools with an average of 25 staff. Good luck to you. So there is a big need for consolidation, and that will eventually happen. And therefore, I think that a platform like ASIO is music to my ears, but it also should be music to the ears of those that have to make those decisions. But I totally with you. It's not easy to make those decisions.
So if you are a VAR, and here's what I take, George, from the discussion that we have. If somebody is a VAR that is thinking about the transformation, and there are good reasons for the transformation, as you said, there are market pressures. So I always say there's a stick and a carrot. There is a market pressure coming from various angles. There is a pressure on the margins from the hardware and software vendors. You mentioned Microsoft and some of the others. There is a pressure from the MSPs and the platform MSPs kind of expanding and growing their reach, which means that the VAR business model is getting under pressure. At the same time, there is a carrot, because there are a lot of private equities that are hungry for the acquisitions in this space, but they only are interested in acquiring well-performing managed service providers rather than VARs. So if you look at the company valuations, VARs cannot expect to get a lot of money from the market if they would like to sell their company. So there's this, and going to the IT Nation Europe, I think what I would recommend to the VARs is to come and join this event, because you need to start somewhere. And George and I will be there, of course. I will be there personally, to actually work with the value-added resellers and maybe help you to understand some of those nuances, help you to answer some of the questions, maybe explain some of the sessions, some of the terms and business models that you might not feel very comfortable with, or you maybe just started the journey that will lead you potentially to the company transformation. And there are a lot of experts at the event, and it's a community-run event, so a lot of people are there to exchange ideas, and a lot of MSPs started as VARs. So there will be a great opportunity for you, a great source of information for you, how to potentially make this transformation. So to summarize, at the IT Nation, I expect there will be a lot of interesting content around the MSP world, but there will be also people that will be ready to help you to understand this content and translate it from the MSP language more to the VAR language, so you maybe don't feel overwhelmed by all the new terminology and ideas that you're gonna get out there. So, George, thanks so much for the conversation. Thanks for the guidance and a little bit of the teaser on what we should expect at the IT Nation Connect Europe. And I'm looking forward to see you there in London.
Absolutely. Likewise, I've got one more thing to add. If you are not only interested in the technology and the fast pace that it's happening right now around us, you might also want to dive into what is called the Service Level Index program, the SLIQ program from ConnectWise. And that zooms in on the business economics side of the things. You know, there's this benchmark where there's a certain percentage of EBITDA, so there's 23% of the top performing MSPs out there. But there is a complete program that brings you from A to Z in a couple of years based on that 20-year-old program. So I definitely recommend checking the menu or the agenda of the event for service level index information, because that might be the step in between to move from a VAR to an MSP, partially or completely, to have a good understanding of the business economics and the steps you have to make to reach to that particular momentum that you choose yourself.
I feel like this is one of the next topics for the Magic Chat and a conversation that I should have here. Would you recommend any experts in this tool that I should interview for the future?
Oh, definitely. There's the community leader, Dan Scott. Not so easy to get a hold on. You know him. He's a very, very busy man. We have just trained a service level index coach, one of my staff members. He is now able to read your books, go into your balance sheet, and help you on the business economic side of things, and explaining what will happen when you go for the MSP model. So I could invite Robin Smith to do a meeting with you guys for the Benelux MSPs or for the European MSPs. But it's a very interesting model, and it's something I think ConnectWise is very unique at. If you become a customer of ConnectWise, because the SLIQ program, you can use that, without being a customer for ConnectWise, buying their products or the platform. The moment you become a customer, you can also join the Evolve program that is being led by the IT Nation community, by Dan Scott and Peter Kayua, and he's going to be speaking and talking on the event as well. And that is one of the unique offerings, I think, in the MSP space, where you do not talk about technology, you just talk about your own company, your own organization, which helps you then to morph into an MSP. And it's called the modes theory, and it goes quite deep, but you can check that on the internet, the modes theory from the Service Level Index program. But I would definitely recommend everybody who's going to London, check out Peter Kayua or Dan Scott about the Service Level Index, and that would help you tremendously in understanding the metrics to be a successful MSP.
I'm gonna reach out to Dan and let's see if we can get him in front of a camera before the IT Nation Connect. Absolutely. Thank you so much, George. Speak to you later.
Thank you so much. Talk soon. See you there.
Bye.
Bye-bye.